Well, this is the third time we've tried to post this video, and we have connection issues, and we don't even have a storm out today. Are we there? Am I on again? Do we have sound? Did I lose my people? I had people earlier on. Do we have people?
It takes me a minute to get on here. Yeah, you're on.
I'm on. Okay, I have sound. Did my people come back?
I don't think anybody has yet.
Okay, good grief. What an issue. Okay, so we're going to start this again. So if you've heard me repeat myself 3 times, I'm so sorry. This is the third time we've tried to do this, and we had router issues and whatnot. So I apologize. Technology. Love it. Have problems with it. Okay, it's one of those things. Okay, so we're still talking about glyphosate in our food. Okay, so I want to read you some quotes, and then we're going to talk about some specifics. Okay, the common practice of desiccation and or ripening with glyphosate right before harvest ensures that the glyphosate residues are present in our food supply. It is plausible that the recent sharp increase in kidney failure in agricultural workers is tied to the glyphosate exposure. We urge governments globally to re-examine their policy towards glyphosate and the introduction of new legislation that would restrict its usage. So I don't know if you know this, but when the industrial people, whoever they are, if they're the farmers or they're just the people that spray the herbicide, when they go out and they spray these farms, they are in hazmat suits. So it's very, very hazardous to our health, these residues. Now, I want to give you just a synopsis, and I'm reading from this research paper. It's an 18-page peer-reviewed journal. So this isn't off social media. This is something that's a scholarly journal. Okay, so the principal diagnostic autoantibodies that are associated with the spectrum of other pathologies such as deficiencies in iron, vitamin D3, molybdenum, selenium, cobalamin. Cobalamin is a vitamin B12, okay? And an overgrowth of pathogens, those are the dirty bugs, the bad bugs, okay? An overgrowth in pathogens in the gut at the expense of the beneficial biota impaired serotonin signaling and increased the synthesis of toxic metabolites. And then it goes on and it talks all kinds of stuff about biochemistry, which you may or may not need to hear. Anyway, the diseases can be explained by glyphosate's known properties. These include disrupting the shikimite pathway, altering the balance between pathogens and beneficial biota in the gut, chelating transitional metals as well as sulfur and selenium, inhibiting cytochrome P450 enzyme. Now, your cytochrome P450 enzyme is an enzyme in the liver that helps with healing and detoxification. Okay, so glyphosate inhibits this. We argue that a key system-wide pathology is impaired sulfate supply to the tissues, and this is a key component of glyphosate's toxicity in humans. So, where are we getting glyphosate in our diet? We're getting it in our wheat. We're getting it in our soy. We're getting it in our corn. We're getting it in our grains. So we need to be really, really careful of the grains that we are ingesting, because this glyphosate gets in our body and it disrupts normal nutrient pathways. Sometimes it changes the nutrient into a nutrient that the body can't recognize. Other times it kills the beneficial bacteria in the gut so that it doesn't do what it needs to do, and the ugly pathogens or critters are able to do what they need to do. And so we want to stop that. We want to make sure that that's not moving forward. So I just want to talk to you about some specific things. So these are some symptoms that you can have if you've got glyphosate poisoning. So these symptoms develop over time. So if you eat the occasional toast, if you eat the occasional bread, then this is probably not going to apply to you. But if you eat sandwiches every day for lunch, if you eat pizza every week, if you eat grains as a preponderance of your menu, then this is going to apply to you. So we want to make sure that everything that we're doing to stop this is what we're doing. So these are some symptoms. Weight loss, diarrhea, chronic fatigue. I don't know anybody that's not chronically tired. I mean, it is something that we all battle with because certainly where we are right now, we're in September 2017. We've just had these 3 horrible hurricanes hit our area, and so there is hurricane fatigue all over the place. Neurological disorders. I cannot tell you the number of people that come in with neuropathy. So anemia, nausea, skin rashes, depression, and nutrient deficits. Now, we have a system here in the clinic where we can take 4 of your hairs. You can either take it out of the top of your head, the crown of your head, or the nape of your neck back here. And we pull them immediately. We scan them on a special device, and it goes right to a medical lab. And they can look at your DNA profile, and they can tell us if you have heavy metals. They can tell you if you have funguses. They can tell you a lot of things. But one of the things that they can tell you is what your nutritional deficits are. So if anybody's concerned about that and you want to know about that, then that's something that we can do here in the clinic. So we want you to know that this glyphosate poisoning causes things to not work well in your body. So it disrupts the gut bacteria, okay? It kills beneficial forms of bacteria in the gut, and it causes the overgrowth of bad bacteria. Now, you may or may not ever have heard of C. diff. C. diff causes chronic diarrhea, and it is a bad bacteria that overgrows the system, and it causes dysentery-like symptoms, and so you don't want to have that. So this glyphosate poisoning gives rise to the C. diff. So I just want to give you a few little quotes here. And like I said in my earlier attempts at this video, Tracy says we need to dumb it down so it doesn't sound like Charlie Brown's teacher, right? So we're going to try and do that for you. So it causes the breakdown in the tight junctions in the enterocytes that line the small intestinal wall. Now, you may have heard of a syndrome called leaky gut, or what we like to call passive leaky gut. So your colon is a tube, your small intestine is a tube, and it's a tight junction, right? Tight. So when you have things that are not supposed to be there, it opens up the junction, and you've got gaps. Through these gaps, nutrients can seep through, undigested food particles can seep through. The body recognizes that as an allergen or as an intolerance, and so you have a whole series of symptoms that we call leaky gut or passive leaky gut. And so we want you to understand that exposure to glyphosate, which is this herbicide, causes gut dysbiosis. Now, dysbiosis is a medical term that says you don't have the life-giving formula of bacteria that you need in there, okay? So it breaks down the potent signaling molecule in the proteins in the grain, okay? So you need to know that. 30% of patients continue to experience these GI symptoms even after adopting a gluten-free diet. So this is one reason why we do the Thrive in 63, because that goes in and repairs this dysfunction. So we want to know, we want you to know that. Glyphosate was predisposed as a possible factor in increased risk to colostrum, botulinum, okay, which is an infection, an internal infection, right? They are connecting this with pigs that are fed GMO corn and soy. Hey, oh, you're here again during Facebook Live. This must be your time to come and see me. We're glad you're here. We're glad you're here. Okay, so the pigs that are fed gluten-free, GMO corn and soy developed intestinal widespread inflammation. And when we eat that meat of these animals that have this inflammation, then we get the same thing too. Okay, so gut dysbiosis is associated with reduced levels of enterococcus, sorry about that, bifidobacteria and lactobacillus in the gut, again with an overgrowth of pathogenic gram-negative bacteria. Now, all of this can be seen in a test when they do your blood work, they do your urine analysis, they do stool testing. They can see these things and they know. So the bacterioids, Staphylococcus, Salmonella, and Shigella were elevated. Now, all of these things cause sickness and disease. So when you've got bowel dysfunction, when you've got gut dysfunction, when you've got heartburn, when you've got a failure to absorb your nutrients, malabsorption, all of this is because this glyphosate messes up the internal bacteria in the digestive system, okay? Not only that, but it also messes up your amino acids. Now, we all need amino acids. Why do we need amino acids? Amino acids turn into enzymes, and we need enzymes for every chemical function that we have. So your body takes your food, it turns it into nutrients, which turns it into different things for the different chemical processes. If you don't have your amino acids, it's not going to work. If you don't have your enzymes, it's not going to work. So this particular dysfunction with the glyphosate, right, inhibits the L-tyrosine. The L-tyrosine that is inhibited gives rise to the pathogenic bacteria Colostrum difficile, or C. diff as we call it. It is a highly toxic carcinogen. Oh, I can't speak today. What is with that? Which also causes adverse effects on the central nervous system, the cardiovascular system, the lungs, and the kidney, and the liver. So when you have glyphosate in your system, it affects all these other things. Also, glyphosate chelates rare minerals. Now, we all have minerals in our body, okay? So, when you have glyphosate, you are enzyme deficient. And this is why our Thrive in 63 works so well. I only have 4 minutes left. Oh, wow, this is a short one. Okay, so just to cut to the chase, because I'm being told I have 4 minutes, the glyphosate impairs the good stuff in your bacteria. These are some diseases or some impairments you can have. You can have gallbladder issues. You can have esophageal issues. You can have kidney, renal failure. You can have, it's given rise to different cancers. Let me get to that really, really quickly. One of the cancers that it helps to foster is thyroid cancer. And why is that? Because selenium is one of the minerals that it chelates. Chelates means clears out of the body. So if you don't have selenium, your thyroid's not going to function properly. And they have seen a huge spike in thyroid cancers since this glyphosate has started to be used on our crops. So they can really trace it back to 1970 when glyphosate began to be used. Kidney disease, we talked about. Renal failure. What about, let's talk about cancer. What are the other cancers? Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is on the rise. And they say that the American Cancer Society shows an 80% increase since the early 1970s when glyphosate was used on our crops in our international farming. So this is really, really concerning, okay? Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, melanoma have risen sharply worldwide in recent decades. We think it's wise to investigate whether there is a link between these two cancers and the glyphosate, and they found that, yes, there was a very strong indication of that. So we want to make sure that we are treating ourselves well. We want to make sure that we are not putting in our body. Let me just tell you a quick thing before I leave. We have several people that when they eat, it feels like their food is getting stuck right here in their chest when they start to swallow. And so what the research paper is showing, right, they call the disease, and you can Google this because I was able to do this in my research. All right, since the early 1990s, there's been a newly, I'm getting the one finger here, I've got one more minute. A newly recognized disease began to appear, and it was characterized by eosinophil infiltration into the esophagus, which manifested as dysphagia in adults and refractory reflex symptoms in children. Now, if you'll look up that dysphagia, if you look that up, it is going into the chest. Your food is going into the chest. This glyphosate irritates the esophagus. The esophagus is the tube from your throat to your stomach. It irritates it so much, and it causes spasms, right? Glyphosate, I'm going to give you a little quote here. Glyphosate is highly corrosive to the esophageal epidermal lining, with the upper GI tract injury observed in 94% of the patients following glyphosate ingestion. 94%. That means nobody needs to be eating products that have glyphosate in them. That is your grains. So when you're doing gluten-free, when you're doing grain-free, you're going to be doing a good thing for your body. So please, if you love bread, if you love grains, please do your due diligence. Make sure you get the organic ones. The organic ones do not have glyphosate sprayed on them. They're harder to find. They're more expensive, but you are worth it. It is investment in your health. So this is the third time we've tried to do this video. I think we got through it, even though it was a very short one. Love you guys. Have a great weekend. I think we're going to have some good weather as we approach the fall season. So be blessed, and I will see you next week. Bye.